guys. So, okay, here I am. I have a new lighting system from last time, so that's good news. And I don't know if you can see it. There's my covered arena. I still hear Ashley Perkins teaching a lesson to our wonderful new girl Tesha Buttons, so that's exciting. So yeah, we're still working, and God bless the teamwork. Yeah, so tonight I want to make a couple of quick announcements before we get started on the big talk of self-worth and yeah, self-doubt. I thought it was really fascinating about when I interviewed Allie, who, as we all know, has been to the Olympics and has all this success. And you know, it's amazing to think about all these great riders that you know and you think of that they just have accomplished everything. And I'm sure they don't struggle with self-worth like I do, you know, or self-doubt about their performance or their riding or what people are going to think of them. And so it was really just like relieving in some way that like we're all normal, and Allie felt that way too and has worked through that. So that was really just remarkable that we're all human and we all, you know, feel quite similar inside. But before we do that, I just want to give a little cheers again. I got my Devon cup because that was so fun on Saturday night. And I just wanted to thank everybody who showed up to go through some of the freestyles that we did through the years at Devon to support next year's show. So I'm so glad for all of you guys for joining us for that. It was really fun to do and just really awesome to like really sit down and watch all those freestyles. We watched it on the big screen inside. We like live streamed it onto our big television. So that was just really entertaining, and I'm so happy. I think at one point there was like 220 people watching. So thank you guys so much. And you can always donate for next year, Passage into the Future on the Dressage at Devon website. www.dressageatdevon.org. You can just click on Passage into the Future because we want to return next year better than ever. So that's exciting. And also here on Team Tate TV, we're almost up to 4,000 people, so keep inviting your friends, because the person who invites the 4,000th member and the 4,000th member gets free access into the academy for a year as a working student, so that's fun. So yeah, and then I cannot believe, and I thank you guys so much for the huge response on the, I'm going to call it the Bon Voyage 2020 tour. I'm going to make my way home after Thanksgiving from Wisconsin back to South Carolina. And we've already got 2 stops, so we're slowly making our way back. And I will definitely do a tour in Maryland for sure. There's talks about a clinic also in Aiken as well as near Atlanta. So stay tuned. We're getting like ready to travel. Regionals is next week. And then we've got the try on CDI. And so then after that, we're free to roam. So that'll be fun. So yeah, I know there was a great debate for last week, what to talk about. And I hope you guys found a lot of help with the resistance versus tightness with the horses. That's always a fun subject and always interesting to just, you know, think about the horse from their 3 evasions and things like that. So that was fun. But I really love this idea because, I mean, we just all struggle and we just all are human. And it's really easy to think about people who are so successful and, you know, like talking to Allie or Stefan, you know, all those people who are so upfront and honest with their own struggles as well. To just have this feeling that we're all human and sharing in that, like, am I good enough? You know, and so many times you're totally shocked by the people you hear that they've struggled with that. So yeah, a couple of different things come to mind when I talk about this. And it's funny because all the girls that have worked for me and have driven home with me for horse shows all know at some point they're going to, and Sid, stay tuned. If you come home from a horse show with me and I am driving you and your horse there home, we always get on to the talk of you really need to know your worth. And, you know, it kind of started with like my teenage girls and them dating and finding boyfriends and all that. And so it kind of started with like, it's really important, girls, that you know, really understand your worth and really set the tone of what you will tolerate in your life, you know, not just in relationships, but with your horses, how you're treated in every situation. And so all the girls that have driven home with me know the speech well. And I don't know, it just comes up. I mean, I think my mom and I drove, I mean, God, miles and miles on the road together. And we just talked about everything. We psychoanalyzed everything and talked about why things would happen and what I did, I could have done better. You know, so it all comes down to self-reflection too, but I'm really open about all things that I find interesting. And I think we're all so similar, more similar than we think. And so, yeah, I want to just get into that. So a couple of years ago, I got a life coach, and I was really working on kind of restructuring my business, and I really want to go to the Olympics. And of course, I need top level horses for that. And you know, how do I create that? Like, how does that happen? I mean, you know, I don't have a big sponsor, and I can't, you know, buy it myself. So, you know, how do I put that energy out there, and how do I, you know, kind of shape my business to be able to work towards that? And one of the big things that happened was I got a couple of horses developed enough that they became Grand Prix, and then I got a couple opportunities to have like kind of a group of really good horses. Of course, not like super Olympic, high caliber, set the world on fire, but horses that I could really hone my craft and get into the Grand Prix ring. And so, you know, there was this little bit of a like, oh my God, like I'm going to be in the same class as my heroes. And I sort of like am a total geek and sort of like fangirl about all these like famous riders, and you know, not really thinking about, well, they're just a rider just like me. They're worried about their right pirouette, you know, and I'm worried about my 2-time tempies, especially that last change, you know, whatever. And like, we're all so the same, but it just looks so different when you're looking at it instead of looking out the world from your own eyes. So one of the things my life coach had me do, and I want to give you guys just a couple of like key things to think about. And so I like to kind of talk in a way that you could like do bullet points if you were taking notes, because I am a note taker. So, you know, like the first bullet point would be write down your bio. My life coach made me do this, and she's like, yeah, you need to like write down like what you've accomplished, what you've done, the horses you've trained. You know, you've ridden like 30 horses at Pre-St. George. You've competed like over 30 horses at Pre-St. George and up. She's like, write that down, because once you read that from like an outside perspective, she's like, you will start to see yourself a little bit more how other people see you. And it was a great exercise, and I highly recommend anyone who is struggling with, you know, well, am I good enough, or can I do that, or, you know, whatever your negative thoughts are in your brain, writing it down from like this neutral place of, it's not really what I think about myself, it's actually like a fact. This has happened. I did this, you know? And so that kind of helps like, you know, make everybody kind of like sit up a little bit straighter of like, wow, that looks really good on paper. Like, who is this chick? And then it's like, oh, that's me. I need to reframe that a little bit, because I just think I'm like little old me, and I just love horses, and I like to ride them and teach people, you know, and then it's like, wow, that's a really, you know, I like what that says, you know, and that kind of gives you a little bit more wind behind your sails as well. And I remember, you know, I'm a bit of a kind of intense, and then I get a little bit like over trying. So then I'm like, you know, I gotta, and then I put this pressure on myself that is like totally unnecessary of like, why do I need to put this pressure on myself? Because we don't really perform great when we have this like negative pressure or this negative tension or these like negative nerves. Like we always have to have some kind of nerves in order to get our adrenaline up to have our best performance. But I remember it was probably like 15 years ago, very long time ago. I was driving, I think like 4 or 5 horses out to, I think it was 5 horses, out to the Region 4 championships. And it was also like the regional championships and like the Midwest championships. So it must have been around like 2005. And I was just driving along, you know, I think I was by myself. And I thought to myself, I don't really need to do anything different at this horse show. I just need to be exactly how I am at home, because I have been, you know, working on my skills and honing my craft. And all I need to do is be the same rider I am at home, because I don't need to make this extra special. I just need to do what I do every day, and that will be really good. And if I get that, I will feel really positive about my performance, because I won't let the show environment affect me. You know, Conrad Schumacher used to always say, control the controllables. And I love that when we were riding with him in Young Riders, which is even longer ago than 15 years ago, long time. He would always say, control the controllables. Like, you can't control if it's going to rain, and you can't control that the judge is going to be 10 minutes late. You can control your reaction to that. You can control, you've planned your warm-up. You can control, you have all your equipment. You can control that you've hand-walked your horse or lunged your horse or whatever you need to do. Like, you can control that. And so driving to this competition, I finally just got this calm over me that said, I am working on excellence every day, and I know how to ride these horses the best I can with what I know at this time. And I just need to do that. And if I can do that, then I'll be successful. And that weekend was absolutely just crazy, because I won like every class I entered. And the only time I was reserved was when I was reserved to myself. And that was like from training level to like Grand Prix. It was like insane. I've never seen so many big ribbons. It's like one of the best show weekends I've ever had in my life. But yeah, the ribbons were great, and like winning is always fun. But like what I really won that weekend was to finally control my brain to not create this like, ooh, it's a show, like, you know, like really do great, like do extra special. You know, and we always say like right after a 10 comes a 0, you know? So a lot of my like over trying and my pressuring myself to do like extra great because it was really important, you know, like totally messed up the performance. And so when I could actually control in my mind that I was just gonna do exactly the same things I do at home, exactly the same way, I know how much bend I need in my half pass, I know how to prepare them for the one-time tempies, I'm gonna sit the trot in my training level test. Like, I had a plan, and I was able to just do exactly what I did at home all the time. And it was a crazy successful weekend. So that was always a big thing of like, just believe in yourself and do your thing. I have another story later about that as well. And part of that came from when I was, you know, again, and I talk about a lot of these stories in the academy, because Eula was such a tremendous trainer for me at the time. I was 18. I was there between like 18 and 21. So it was a really big learning time for me. And one day I was taking a lesson, and I start trotting, and I start posting, and Eula's like, why do you do that? And I was like, is this a trick question? Like what do you mean? What did I do? Do what? And he's like, well, you start trotting, and you just start posting, and then you notice like 3 strides and it's the wrong posting diagonal, and then you right away switch. He's like, but why do you do that? And I was like, I had no answer. I'm like, I don't know why I do that. And he's like, well, why not just be correct? Like, why not just do it well and right? And I was like, that it was like this giant epiphany for the rest of my life. And I know all my team Taters out there who ride with me know that it's like, why not just be great? Like if you can control that and you can make a conscious like mindfulness about not doing it wrong because you're being lazy, like just do it right. It takes a tiny bit more concentration or really just awareness and focus. And then it's like this discipline of like, yeah, I know I should post on that diagonal. Like, why would I not do that? You know, so that was a really big moment. And that was, of course, before this epiphany driving to the regional championships 15 years ago. But I always loved that. And I love that. Like, why not just be great? Like, if you can make the choice to just ride better on a simple thing, which of course we all know in dressage, like there's no simple things. And dressage is the perfection of all small things. So there is no little thing in dressage. But like that, being able to concentrate on just doing it right, then being correct became my habit. And then I could concentrate on other things. So that was always like a really huge thing I always share with my students as well. A couple years ago, I got this wonderful opportunity to start to compete back in the CDI Grand Prix ring. And I had to like knock the dust off. Like my last great horse was Cambay, who I had shared one of his Devon performance. And also 2005, he was part of that regional group. And then he went to Devon and changed my life forever. I loved it. Thanks to Oded for finding him for me. It was a great, great horse. And he's now retired in Aiken, enjoying his life with Trent. But then he had gotten injured, and then I retired. You know, I actually gave him some time off, and then he became a lesson horse. Yeah, I brought him back, and all. It's a great story, but for another night. But then I had this opportunity just recently to start competing again in the CDI ring, and I was really struggling with that. Like, oh my God, like it's been such a long time. Like, am I good enough to do that? Oh my God, you know, I'm going to be riding around all these riders that I look up to. And again, I'm like fangirling about like Ashley Holzer's in my class. She's warming up with me. You know, like I'm just a total like, you know, I am still that small girl from Wisconsin who's just like, oh my God. And so I admire Ashley Holzer so much. And I would just see her, like she would just bring horses to the CDI Global and like, ride them like it's just no big deal. And I'm like, but this is like global, and these are like the CDIs in Wellington, like this is a big deal. And she would just like ride the Grand Prix and then be coaching her students and then like ride somebody in the small tour and like win or maybe not win or like whatever, but this was just like what she did. And I was like, I want to do that. I want to be like that. I want it to be a normal thing that I just have horses in the Grand Prix at Global and the CDI, and I'm just a regular at that horse show. And so these opportunities started to happen, probably because I put the energy out there. So I'm going to put the energy out there that I would like to go to the Olympics or the WEG. I'm just going to put that out there. But so this happened, and I started getting these good horses, and I mean, they're not like, you know, the amazing horses that other people have in the class, but I did the best with what I have, and we're doing a good job, and that's what's important. But I sort of kind of like retreated, and I'm like, I don't know if I'm good enough, you know. Then the self-doubt came in. It's been so long, you know, I haven't done this in so long, you know, whatever all of us just come in our mind with, you know. So I talked again to my life coach, and we decided that what works for me is having a totem. And what a totem is like a little signal, you know, something that you wear. And so I have a bracelet, and here it is. You can't really see it because it's very worn because I wore it a lot. My mom, for my birthday, which is in March, so it was right around the time the CDIs were happening, she got me this bracelet and engraved, "I am enough." Because that was something with my life coach I was really working on and working through, that I could really feel that, like, look at your bio. You are enough. You've trained a lot of horses. They're not super fancy, but you have a lot of experience, and you're going to do a good job. So just relax and get in there and do your thing. And so whenever I would get a little bit nervous or whatever, I would be able to look at that bracelet and say, like, I am enough, and it gets me into this mind frame of I can do it. I also have a lot of like sticky notes around on my mirror and all kinds of things. So one of the big things, I want us to all think about is like, I am enough, and I am enough in my life. I am enough to invest in myself to become a better rider with lessons or a fitness program. I am enough to not tolerate that behavior towards me. I am enough to be loud enough to be heard. We've talked about that a lot in one of the other lives. And I am enough to expect more from myself and others around me and take pride in what I'm doing. And one of my favorite things is I know what I am worth, and it is more than this, and I must find the courage to make a change. That's really a huge, powerful thing. And so it's important to kind of really recognize you're worth it. You're worth so many things. And it's important to spend some time on that, because one of our biggest enemies is our negative self-talk. And we all have it. You would be amazed at how many top riders deal with that, and even depression. And, we've got something planned with Dr. Jenny. We're going to have a little talk with her at some point and share it with you guys as well. Oh, and Kelly asked me, do you still have that self-affirmation CD in your truck? Yes, I do. I haven't listened to it in a long time. Honestly, I don't even know if it still plays, but I keep wanting to ask my sister if she can make another copy, because that was also something. It's just really all this like self-talk and really concentrating on the things that you want to have happen. Something that also helped me a lot is I read a book that David Goggins, I don't know if any of you are familiar with him, but if you are not, I suggest you do a little Google. He does swear a lot, so beware of that. But I love him. And last year at Devon, when my hamstring was cramping and I could hardly ride Gideon in the Grand Prix, Ashley Perkins says to me, she's like, dude, you're going to have to David Goggins this crap. Like, you got to get in there. And, and it was like, there was no not going, but like my hamstring was literally like in a knot. And I just focused through it like David Goggins. But he's amazing, entertaining. Listen to the book, read the book. He's all over like YouTube. And I mean, he's amazing. But one of my favorite things about when I'm working on like, ooh, I don't think I'm good enough, and going into the bad place in your head, he talks about something he calls the cookie jar. And I love this concept because he's like, yeah, when you start to feel like you aren't good enough and aren't going to be able to do it, he goes, I want you to go to your cookie jar and look at all the other times in your life that you felt that way, you did the thing. You got to take that cookie out. Remember that one time I was scared to ride my bike down that hill? I did that. Remember that time I was scared to like ask her out on a date? I did that. Remember that time I got on that horse that I was afraid he was going to be like a bucking bronco, and I was worried my horse does buck, and then he did buck, and then it was like not a big deal. I did that. And so it's important to sometimes find your cookie jar and like, oh, remember that time I was really scared to give that presentation at work, or yeah, whatever, I did that. I was scared. I was worried. It wasn't going to go good. I was going to embarrass myself or whatever. I did it. And it was great. The end result was you so many times find out that the end, like what actually happened was like so not worth worrying about, but we all get up on our head. So you should all create your cookie jar and find out good things that are in your cookie jar so you can like pull that out and remember that stuff. That's important. I also do a lot of daily affirmations. I do a lot of yoga. And so I like to pick yoga practices that help me get grounded, come from a place of patience and understanding and compassion, filling up my own well so that I can give to others is really important. So that I love that, you know, and my mom and I always laugh about, now this is going way back because a lot of you are young on here, but I don't know if any of you guys remembered Saturday Night Live with Stuart Smalley, and he would always say, I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and doggone it, people like me. So my mom and I always laugh about that too, and it was like, you know, whatever. Another great story, I got to give a shout out to Scott Hassler. And I've told this story a lot, and maybe even I've already told it here once or twice, maybe once, but it's so good I'll repeat it. I remember Fiji was 6, and we had gotten to Chicago, and it was for the Young Horse Championships, National Championships. And Fiji, you guys know him as a great Grand Prix horse, amazing, won the 4-star, like awesome guy. Not the biggest mover, like a lot of his wonderful attributes were things we trained into him. He had a great ability to collect, wonderful walk, you know, amazing rideability. But he didn't have this like, you know, like this amazing movement. And so I'm there, and everyone's riding around, and I mean, all their horses are like amazing and just trotting around, and I'm like, holy crap. Like, I'm on Fiji, like, just like trotting around pretty normal. And I was like, this is like not gonna be great. I am out-horsed. These horses are, and I'm like, that one for sure is in my class. Like, that has to be in my class. No, that thing was a 4-year-old, okay? I mean, later it was Emily's wake up. So he eventually did, you know, the next year go to Fairden because he was amazing. But he's like trotting around at 4. And I was like, oh my God, he's in my class. I can't compete with that. Like, you know, and then it's easy to get like frustrated with Fiji. Like, come on, you know, pick up your feet more. Like, you're so slow, you know. And Fiji's like, I don't know why you're upset with me, you know. And I wasn't upset. I was just self-doubt. Are we good enough to be in this class? And, you know, Scott could see me like getting like totally psyched out. Like, oh my God, all these horses are so beautiful. And like Fiji's just like going along, doing his thing. And I know he's got a great walk, and I know he listens to me and he's trained well. But I was just like, oh my God, you know, it's gonna just not be great. And Scott's like, hey, you know, get a hold of yourself. He didn't say that, but that's kind of what he meant, probably. And he was like, listen, Fiji is a class. You ride your ride. You honor what you are. You ride your ride. Your ride is elegant, well-trained. Show off that. Show off his highlights. He doesn't need to trot to the moon. Like, you do you. And we were reserve champion. To like, Pico de Cerro, who like was amazing, you know. So that was a huge moment to work through that, of like being completely like intimidated by these fancy horses. And Scott really helped ground me and was like, hey, do your thing. You do you. Because any of us can be brilliant when we have that authenticity of we're doing what we love the best we can with what we know at the time. I mean, that's all we can do, right? And I think other things too that really help me is, you know, thinking about honing your craft. Like, no one could ever argue about like, I am just working on getting better. I just, you know, Michael Barris would always tell me, just get good. Just get good. Keep learning. Keep riding. Keep, you know, wanting to learn more, you know. And that was one of the main reasons we created the Academy, because I want to help people, you know, from their living rooms be able to train their horses at home with the help of their trainer. Of course, we're not replacing any trainers, but just that like education builds confidence, and confidence builds self-worth, you know. And so that self-doubt can, you know, it will never completely go away. It's something that we have to like really, it's like a muscle we have to really learn to contract, of like, you know, I know Dr. Jenny would always say, like, when you start to go there, say something different, like purple elephant, you know, and it's like, what? You know, because your brain just like then thinks about that thing. So you can like train your brain with whatever you want. When you start to think, like, well, what happens if he misses that change? Or what happens if he doesn't want to go in the arena? And like, whatever. And it's just like, purple elephant, stop it. Focus on, you know, we always say, like, keep your eye on the prize. Focus on what you can control. So I love that because, again, knowledge is power. And, you know, knowing your craft is a powerful thing, you know, so we can all work on becoming educated and things like that. And probably the last thing, well, kind of like the last piece I would like to say about this is, you know, keeping things in perspective is a huge thing as well. And, you know, I always have different kind of totems, and right now you can see I have a bracelet on that we actually got when our family went to Africa. That was a completely life-changing experience to have the opportunity to go to Kenya. Amazing. The world is so big and there are so many. We are so gifted and lucky to be born where we're born and get to do what we get to do. I mean, I get to ride horses around in circles all day long. Like, my life is that I'm incredibly grateful for that. And so when I also come from a place of gratefulness, there's really just love around it, you know, and it isn't like the stress of like, oh, I got to get this score, or I got to, you know, it's like, I love this horse. I love what we have learned together. It's a great challenge for me to take this to the competition arena because that's just another way to keep my riding sharp. And keeping everything in perspective, like there are people who don't have running water and they can't just like turn on the faucet and get a glass of water. That was really powerful for me too, to keep, if I missed that change, it's like, okay, keep it in perspective, people. That always helps me too. I was at Young Riders, and the first year I went, I was like almost last, like embarrassingly last. And I was in my horse trailer and I was like crying and embarrassed and just feeling sorry for myself, basically. I think I was 16, so, you know, or maybe 17. I was 17. So really just, you know, feeling sorry for myself, crying, you know, embarrassed. And my mom, you know, she probably gave me, you know, a little, maybe half an hour to like, go do your thing there in the trailer. And then she comes and she gets me and she's like, hey, he's hungry. He needs to eat. So I don't remember exactly what she told me, but it was basically like, you need to get over yourself and the sun will come up tomorrow and your horse is hungry and you need to go take care of him. And I was like, yeah, I got that. And that, I'll never forget that because, you know, being last at Young Riders at the moment was like this horrible thing that happened, you know, and then it was like, I learned a lot. And then the next year, I got better. And then the next year, I got better again. And then we just keep getting better. And when we just keep making progress forward, we just, that's our path. And we just have to be, you know, surround that with love because that's great, you know. I also love Brene Brown, and I love to listen to her podcast as well. And, you know, part of this is, you know, kind of my wrap up idea is that we all need to give ourselves a break too. You know, and Brene always talks about the FFT. So if you don't know what that is, I suggest you check out Brene Brown and listen to the FFT because, you know, we're all just out here, you know, doing the best we can with what we know at this time. And we all need to work at asking more of ourselves and more of the people around us because we're worth it. And I think when you can really spend some time and figure out for you what works for you, like what is your best way to come to that belief that you are worth it. whether that's yoga or like me, I've got all my bracelets, you know, that help me, really, because I'm not brave enough to get a tattoo. So I have Love My Tribe, which my friend Tiffany gave me, and Be Brave. Sometimes I have to wear the Be Brave, you know, and it all looks different, and we all need to just know ourselves and know the best way to help ourselves through this wonderful journey called life. And of course, dressage, which is a metaphor for life. So I hope you guys found that helpful. Thank you guys all for joining me tonight. And I hope you guys all find your way to find your own worth as well. So cheers to that. Find your worth, know your worth, and have the courage to make changes if you need. All right, have a great night, guys. Thanks for joining.